What I've got for you today should be an amazing series of StarCraft 2. It's time for a Protoss versus Zerg, where the #1 player in the world, he goes by the name of Serral, is going up against the highest ranked Protoss from South Korea, and I guess arguably the planet as well. If you look at the statistics right now, technically speaking, MaxSpecs is higher ranked, but there's no denying that this man has been incredibly successful over the years, and he certainly won a lot more tournaments than MaxSpecs. We're looking at Heroes Main Nexus, a best of 3 between the best of the best. Interestingly enough, we're starting off on Abyssal Reef. Now, I've been thinking about this matchup a lot. I've been discussing it a bunch as well in my YouTube videos. I've been discussing it on stream. And it seems like a lot of people are in agreement that, well, Zerg is not really enjoying late game against Protoss very much. I've casted a bunch of games now as well featuring Serral, and even Serral has started dropping maps in the late game. So for us to have Abyssal Reef as the very first game of the series, it almost makes me believe here that Serral has got some sort of trick up his sleeve, even though that is not his playstyle whatsoever. The thing is, this map is huge, there's lots of bases, and it's not a particularly easy one to attack on. So if we're starting off over here, I think action is very much so on Serral's side of the map. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what he decides to do, because if Hero wants to play a macro game, he should easily be able to pull it off on a map as large as this. Well, I say easily. Obviously, there's about 7 dozen skill checks before the late game. Everything is going to have to be on point. I think over the last 6 years, though, ever since, well, actually, I guess it's 7 years now. 2018 is when Serral first started dominating. Over the last 7 years, God, that sounds like a long time. I think I would have always favored Serral in a series like this, and I still do. But right now, the margin in my mind is maybe like 60%, 40%, you know? Like, Serral has always been the overwhelming favorite in basically any match that he plays. I think about 2 years ago, he probably was like an 80-20 favorite, right? Against the highest ranked Protoss on the planet. These days, it's a hell of a lot closer. So let's see. Hero, though, is certainly a very aggressive Protoss, not really somebody who will just skip the mid game and go straight towards the late game. It's not really his plan. There are some build orders on this map that you can pull off, like for example, so we do have a Stalker opener into a Stargate. You can go into a Oracle build and then straight towards Tempests. We've seen that a lot on Abyssal Reef in particular, especially when the new multiplayer balance patch was just released. It's something that a lot of Protoss players were messing around with. So it's like a quick fleet beacon into a quick mama ship, double Stargate, Tempest, the whole shebang. Actually, usually would go Tempest before the mothership, but it's an almost guaranteed way to skip the early game and skip the mid game and then go straight towards that Sky Toss. And that seems to be exactly the flavor of Protoss that Zergs are struggling with right now, more so than any time over the last couple of years. By the way, the big reasoning for it, yes, the Tempest got buffed. Yes, we have seen some adjustment to the Zerg late game units too. But really, the big game changer in my mind is the fact that the mothership is no longer abductable. Anyways, the Stalker is going to town, trying to see if it can potentially kill some Zerglings, mostly just pretending to be an adept. He decides to recall it back home to make sure that he can shoo away that Overlord. Serral, though, already has spotted that this is a Stargate opener. It's a little weird to go for a Stalker first build, but I don't mind it. Generally speaking, you go adept first. Hero now already thinking about planting down a 3rd Nexus before adding on the 2nd Gateway. Ah, he decides to wall himself in fully on top of that high ground. That does mean, though, that if there were, like, I don't know, 12 Zerglings here, they could probably deny this base for a good minute. Maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah, basically until the Void Ray is out. Void Rays are expensive, though, so this is still by no means a super quick 3rd. Oracle decides to just go. That's actually kind of neat. He decides to just go for the Creep Tumor snipes. So rather than just jumping straight into the mineral line, which is what Zerg players have been experiencing over the last... basically ever since the introduction of the Oracle, about a decade ago at this point. Maybe... was that Heart of the Swarm? Was it Legacy of the Void? I don't even remember. Anyways, these days we see it being used a lot more as a macro unit. We probably will see him jump the mineral line, but not until the 2nd Oracle also makes its way across. Void Ray is mostly just here, I would imagine, to try and be a bit of a nuisance. And if I was Serral, right? If I was in Serral's shoes here, first off, I would have a lot more money in my bank account. And secondly, I would also be very scared of any sort of Tempest straight to late game type of build. Because this looks exactly like it. That is the style that Hero is trying to sell right now to Serral. He's gone for a very safe beginning here. This is not really something that Hero is going to be punished in unless he loses the Void Ray for free. No, he's scooting it around the edge over here just to be safe and, yeah, try to see if he could maybe get another Creep Tumor. Took one hit of damage. Goes in with the Revelation. Hero shuts down another Creep Tumor. So what have you seen right now as Serral? Well, you've seen a Stalker first. You've seen, I guess, a Void Ray and then a couple Oracles, right? You see a bunch of Adepts right now. But nothing really that is going to determine exactly what the strategy of choice in the mid-game is going to be. So we do have the Oracles killing a couple of those drones. The follow-up, however, from Hero, after tricking his opponent at every opportunity so far, is the most conventional. This is by far the most standard way to play this matchup. It's Blink into +1 ground. That's it. So we're doing all these tricks only to sell the most ordinary strategy out there. And I kind of love it. Bunch of drones going down right now in the natural. Sacrificing these Adepts. They were mostly warped in to try and keep that third base around. At this point, it's a Stalker transition anyways, so he doesn't really need the Adepts anymore. Decides to just maximize damage. Get out of there. Good bit of work done so far here by the Protoss. Serral's feeling forced to go now into a Roach Hydra based unit composition. So Roach Hydra, we have Roach Speed, we have Hydra Range, we have +1 missile. All those units benefit from it. Stalkers are heading across the map right now. This is before Zerg is really going to be able to contest this. It's one of the reasons why denying that creep over here is so nice for Protoss, because it means that this area of the map, I mean, if that creep tumor in the early game, like we've seen like 3 creep tumor snipes in this area. There's number 4. If those creep tumors were not denied, the creep would be all the way out here. And it means that those Stalkers would effectively just be nullified. Storm on the back it is too for Hero, by the way, so he's really just dancing. Using the Lekka surface area here, the ranged of his Stalkers to try and maximize the efficiency of the ramp. I've been wondering if maybe Zerg should be killing the rocks in these sort of situations. We notice that the creep tumors are getting sniped. I think knocking down the rocks is actually the correct play. Just because you have a lot more usefulness out of your, even like slow roaches, but especially, oh, another creep tumor goes down. Man, Serral is not really allowed to do anything so far in this game. Now, I say that. He's gonna start shutting this down. He will be able to push these units away, and he did build all the way up to 82-ish workers. That's a lot. He's essentially got economy for the rest of the match. So, historically, this is always where Serral is, like, very dangerous, right? So, yeah, he's taken some damage, he's lost a bunch of drones, the creep tumors have been denied, yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, the man always ends up with a full economy. These Stalkers have to get out of here. Storm is done right now. I don't think you want to be storming your own Stalkers, but loses one of the Oracles. Okay, Serral actually decides to push through. I kind of love it. There's another group, though, of those Templar coming in. They're going to start throwing water balloons. They don't have a lot to protect, but Serral don't have... Yeah, he doesn't have quite enough. I think you run, dude. Get out of there. What are you doing? Go home. Really? We're going up to the high ground? Very risky. Unnecessarily so. If that was another group of Zerglings in production, Serral could have actually killed these units with relative ease. And at that point, any sort of follow-up attack from Zerg is very difficult to hold. But apparently they are really needed to throw water balloons over here at the rocks. That ability, by the way, the auto attack of the High Templar, is really only just in existence to... It just exists to keep distance between the units. So the High Templar don't just wander into the Zerg army. They don't actually deal a lot of damage. Less than a worker. Fun fact. High Templar deal less damage than workers with their auto attack. Their abilities are pretty good, though. Maybe this one is going to show us. No, I don't think it had enough energy for a storm. Ooh, okay. So now that Serral has that economy, he decides to go double Lurker Den. I wonder if this is a mistake. I think it is. It has to be, because he didn't actually start up a Lurker Den while he was transitioning towards the Hive. So I think he's doing this on purpose to try and catch up as far as those upgrades go. Either that or he wants to get those upgrades done as quickly as possible. The High Templar storms are nice, but this is a fight that is partially taking place on creep. And that is, of course, where those Zerg units can actually dash around relatively easily, lungeability or not. Hydra's much quicker on creep than they are off creep. More Stalkers are coming through. Hero not yet really starting up the transition towards Skytals, which has me a little bit concerned. It is a delicate maneuver, though, making that transition. Like, he has 4 base economy now, which is what he needs in order to play Skytos. He's gonna go up to a 5th base first, it looks like. Zergling is gonna deny it. But he should be able to start that up momentarily. There's those double lurker dens, by the way. Researching each of the upgrades. So that's the burrow speed, that is the range of the lurker. My concern right here for Hero is that he doesn't have a lot of good units to try and deal with the Zerg. Like, lurkers are gonna tear him apart. He only has a single immortal. Alright, now we're gonna go into the Fleet Weekend. Now we're gonna go into the second Stargate. We have the +1 air weapons coming up. This is always that moment in this matchup where Protoss seems to be most vulnerable and where Protoss struggles the most. Hero is he's investing into things that aren't there yet. Like, he is preparing for retirement right now, but he's not even remotely close to that age yet, you know? Like, maybe this is the perfect time to start. The sooner the better. It's just that Serral is going to try and knock this down as quickly as possible. 7 Overlords morphing in. Keep in mind that those lurkers are double upgraded, so they're already done and ready to go. Zealot run by over here to try and buy time, because that's really the only thing Hero needs. If he manages to get up towards those Tempests, if he maybe can even get a Mothership out, that would be amazing. Zergling run by right over here. Zealots get warped in. Push over at the front. Lurkers should be able to protect reasonably well, though I don't know if there's enough. Aggressive blink forward, though. There's more lurkers hiding on the left. I didn't see them initially. I don't think Hero did either. In the meantime, though, the Overlord's currently not filled up yet. Lurkers are trying to go to town over here. I think those lurkers are the ones that are gonna be assigned to balloon duty. Okay. Now, though, Hero is slowly starting to produce some proper units. The sketchiest moment in the game, the biggest timing opportunity for Serral, the window is closing. Very soon, the lurker is still going to be a nice troop to have, but not really that important. Overlord actually spots these units from coming in. Nicely done here by the finisher. Although I say that. Yeah, where do you think those units are headed right now? Zealot wanted to die with the rest of his friends. It is such an obvious move now in my mind. It can only ever be a little bit of dropshipping in that direction. It's a very delayed dropshipping, though. 2-week delivery time right over here. Anyways. Man, time and time again, though, is this area of the map actually something that Protoss does not seem to expect or really take into consideration. Lurkers going around the site. Zerglings distracting over here. Big army of the Swarm player at the front as well. Looking to start knocking on the 4th base, or even the 5th base, rather, of Hero. But in the meantime, yeah, the lurkers in the natural expansion have arrived. And this is going to be extremely annoying for Hero to deal with. This is a super scary moment right here for this Protoss player, because there's a lot of movement, and suddenly there's aggression on every side. Technically speaking, the Tempest can kill everything, but there's only 3 or 4 of them at this point. 15 probes end up going down. Serral is now on the horizon with a Spire. And the Corruptors are going to be amazing. He doesn't want to get carried away. Lurkers actually killed the Nexus. Good crisis management across the board for Hero, but still, I think he would have made it a lot easier, and Protoss players in general would make it a lot easier for themselves if they have some spotter unit in this section of the map, because I see this exact same attack, well, executed over and over and over again. A couple of the Overlords apparently snuck away with a bunch of Zerglings in their bellies. They're going to be dropped into the main base. These are properly upgraded links. They have adrenal glands, so they should have an easy time breaking through that photon cannon. Lurkers going around the back. The majority of the bulk of the Protoss, though, is going across. Don't know how many lurkers there are at home, if any at all. And this is the opportunity that Hero apparently is going to try and grab with both hands. Mothership is on the production tab as well, but it's going to be a while. Lurkers awkwardly try to make their way back. There is an observer up in the air. Serral's going to try and snipe it before the lurkers die. No more detection available for Protoss, meaning that if these lurkers burrow, there should not be a way for them to get countered. Lurkers coming in from both sides. A little bit of an awkward unit to create a sandwich with, but nice usage right there of those Corruptors just to snipe all of the detection. Zerglings in the meantime have been cleaned up inside of the main base, and the Mothership is almost ready to spawn. Hero has been knocked down to 59 workers. It's not a lot. He's forced to remake, but he did keep all of his Nexi alive. Other than the one over here, but that one's not super important. He kept the 4th and the 5th base alive, and I like those a whole lot better. Okay, so we've arrived in the dreaded late game position. I am very curious to see how Serral is going to try and deal with a Protoss late game army. I've seen a lot of games now from Zergs, and I just don't know what they would do. Like, I'm not sure what the approach is. Corruptors can kill Skytles, yes, but at the same time, this is not really that Skytlesy of an army. Corruptors are kind of garbage against everything that isn't Skytles, right? So this is one of those situations where, yeah, Zerg can do a lot of damage with counterattacks, but fighting the main army of Protoss becomes really difficult. Cloak, cloak, cloak. Yep, I love it. Good move right here by Hero. Cloaks the Nexus, keeps it around. Serral decides to awkwardly march his way back home. He's got a decent amount of Corruptors right now in the air, but not that many. There's more spawning, but this army here from Zerg is not looking that amazing. Hero has arrived at the ball of units that he's been trying to get to this entire game long. We have a couple of lurkers trying to see if maybe they can make their way on over towards the natural expansion. Serral taps out. 160 supply. A decent amount of bases, but he can't make an army that can contest with the Protoss. I have not seen him do this. Really ever. Brilliant game right there by Hero. Honestly, couldn't really make any real mistakes, right? I guess he was in a bunch of trouble when he was halfway to his late game transition. I think he had a handful of Tempest out, but when Zerg first went across the map with the Overlord drop, right, and he hit his opponent in the back of the 4th base and then over at the front, and he killed the Nexus on the low ground in the natural expansion, that I think was by far the scariest moment for Hero. I think there's room for improvement, though. I think that transition from mid-game to late-game for Protoss is not entirely smooth because it hasn't been practiced enough over the last couple of months. Like, the introduction of the patch, I think there are, like, for example, there are opportunities for Protoss to put down a fleet beacon, just make a mothership, and then transition towards additional Skytles. It seems like the way that it's played most of the time right now is all at once. So you go +1 air weapons, you go fleet beacon, you start up the mothership, you go second Stargate, you make all of those really big investments, and then usually all at the same time whilst also making a 5th base. I think those transitions can be ironed out a little bit smoother. I think there's some room for opportunity there, but yeah, that was by far the scariest thing, and I think Hero could have actually made that a bit easier on himself if he didn't just put it down all at the same time. But I mean, it still worked out for him, so who am I to criticize? Honestly, brilliant game. He didn't really make any critical mistakes. Maybe not anticipating the lurker movement towards the bottom left. Like, he basically found like 9 lurkers heading on over towards the bottom left-hand corner, going nowhere, right? Just minding their own business on a bit of a stroll. I think he could have anticipated the Overlord drop, and there was, yeah, strategically, maybe a little bit of improvement possible, but execution-wise, Hero did phenomenally. So let's see. Where do we go from here? We have, by the way, seen players like, for example, Rogue against a much more passive Protoss. In that series against Classic that I recently casted, for example. Rogue has been mixing in a bunch of Vipers in the late game Zerg army. I know a lot of Zerg players are saying that Vipers aren't really viable anymore. Maybe against a more aggressive Protoss player like Hero, like the style that Hero just played. They may be onto something, honestly. I think getting Vipers going in that situation is really tough. But Rogue made them look awfully useful. Hero, obviously, like, it's aggressive macro in a very interesting way. This is like the pinnacle of Protoss, honestly, when you play it like that, right? So you play both very macro-focused, very tech-heavy, but then at the same time very aggressive with the handful of units that you do have. He made it look very easy as far as all those transitions goes and all of the control goes, but there are so many moments where for Protoss that can all go horribly wrong, and you just straight up lose the game. Okay, so once more a Stargate opener. We're once more gonna go into the Void Ray. I know Hero doesn't really enjoy the new Oracle situation that much, so the Oracle didn't really get nerfed. If anything, it got buffed with the new energy recharge ability, but the counter to the Oracle, especially Spore Crawlers, they're quite a bit more effective. So Hero's been going for a lot more Void Ray into a bunch of Oracles and then Adepts. He's been mixing it up a bit as far as the Stargate beginning goes. Not really going for anything other than a Stargate, though. It's still just Stargate across the board. No Twilight Council builds, or very rarely. No, like, Robo Facility openers. None of that. Maybe there is some opportunity for it, but if you want to play a longer game, Stargate is certainly the way to go. Third Nexus gets planted down nice and early. It's once more before the second gateway goes down. This is one of the advantages of what Hero does with the pylon as part of the wall-off. You can create a wall-off here without needing a second gateway. And when you don't need your second gateway, you save yourself 150 minerals to build the third base a little bit quicker. Technically a little risky, but when you go for a Void Ray start like this, like, yeah, maybe if there's like 30 Zerglings or something, but that's super committed by Zerg. Serral made the absolute minimum amount of Zerglings in this game so far, and he's still behind economically, so it's not it's not really that viable for him to make that many links without going entirely all in. The thing is, he doesn't do it every time. Hero doesn't play like this every single time, so if you can reliably predict that he's gonna do a very quick third Nexus with basically no units, yeah, Zerg could try and blind counter it, but most of the time Hero doesn't do it that way. In the previous game, he didn't do it that way. That was a much later third base, about 20 seconds later. So he decided to go for the Oracle first. Anyways, small deviations. It basically prevents Hero from being hard counterable, and it puts him into a really nice position here once more. Time to start zepping. Bzz, bzz, bzz. 4 probes, or 4 drones rather, end up going down. He's not denying creep in the same way, though, that he did in the previous game. I thought the creep denial on Abyssal Reef in the early game was fantastic. I wouldn't mind seeing some more of that, because we all have seen how Serral spreads creep. It's a very dangerous game. Maybe he's gonna do it right now. Like, I think one more creep tumor spread and it's not possible anymore. I mean, it's still possible, but it would take a lot of energy. You can kind of still nip it in the butt right now. I think he's actually doing this perfectly on time. Yep, that's why these Stalkers are here right now. There's one tumor over there. So this is long before Blink is done, by the way. So a very calculated approach here by Hero. Man, watching Hero play against Serral, it's like an entirely different person. When he plays against Dark, we see all these weird moves. And he goes up against Serral and he looks so calculated. I mean, he hit a supply block just now. We don't talk about that. But it's an entirely different Protoss playstyle all of a sudden. I've said it many times before. I'll say it again. Hero and Dark really do bring out the worst in one another. Suddenly we have top-level players playing like they're in Gold League or something. It's very weird. Hero, though, absolute chat in this particular series so far. Now he decides to go for a proxy gate. I think this is unnecessary. We have Blink and +1 coming up. Hero wants to go for a bit of a cheapie. Do we like the idea of a cheapie here? Look at this. Another proxy pylon, another gateway. This is going to be 8-gate Blink Stalker on 3 bases. Really? You think you're gonna beat Serral with this? I mean, there is a chance. Serral has been playing as greedy as possible. As a matter of fact, he already has the 4th base. A bunch of Adepts. They sneak into the natural expansion. In the meantime, though, Stalkers are dancing with Zerglings at the front. Little Ling run by over here, sniping one of those Stalkers. Stasis Ward does get set off. This is the real nice upgrade, though, here for Serral. Getting that +1 upgrade done is huge. It's going to make the Zerglings so much better against Stalkers in particular. Keep in mind, you can also knock down the cooling tower. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. Knocking down the cooling tower. What are we going to do now? Well, this is awkward. We're just going to continue doing this? I mean, as far as unpredictability goes, I like this, I guess, from Hero, but I do think overall, this is not my favorite strategy. Zerglings running over towards the 3rd base, and this may just be the best defense Serral can go for. Ooh, great Blink. The best defense is oftentimes the offense. Good number of drones, or Protoss drones, going down. 11 probes there is actually significant. There's no 4th Nexus or anything along those lines. Meaning that, yeah, now with +1, I mean, he's already going Hive. He's going for the +2. He's going Bailing Nest. I don't know why we're playing a mid-game all-in. It just seems entirely unnecessary. This is where Serral was at his strongest, I think. This is kind of playing into Serral's yeah, strengths. I mean, aggressive blink forward. I don't know if I like it, man. There's so many Lings out on the map. Yeah, the other ones decide to come back home too. Serral using a cheeky little all-army hotkey there for a moment. Decided, yo, you're gonna blink deep onto creep. Let me see how it goes for you. Surround. Okay. A lot more Lings coming up. If Serral misses a round of Queen Injects, this could actually become dangerous. He does have one inject missing in the natural expansion, but since he's playing so Zergling heavy, he doesn't actually have that much to spend, right? Like, he doesn't actually have that many larvae. He needs a lot of production here. That's why that fourth base is quite nice, though. I wouldn't even mind seeing a macro hatch at this point. Hero did make a bunch of probes once more, but still no fourth nexus. There is, okay, some vision out on the map too. I was wondering what that was. Serral decides to send in the first couple Banelings, and I don't think this is really something Hero is going to expect. He probably assumes, looking at the minimap right now, that those are going to be slow Zerglings, but what it actually is literal bombs moving into his mineral line, and that's 13 additional probes down the drain. Serral going into the adrenal glands upgrade right now too. Those Stalkers are not really making a lot of room, right? Like, they're trying to carve a path onto the creep towards the Zerg bases. Serral's gonna say, yo, do we do a little bit more of that? Like, maybe I can send some more Lings in that direction. Maybe more for the more Banelings in too. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a decent strat. I think this is a good strategy from Protoss if you go up against not Serral. There's only a handful of Zergs that I think are very confident playing mid-game defensively. And he may just be going up against the most dangerous one of them all. I mean, this is now very committed. And you know what? This Stalker count is very dangerous. Maybe it's still possible? He did kill a bunch of probes again on the other side of the map. But this is basically Stalker mono battles right now for Hero. He's just making Stalkers. That's all he's making. That's all he has been making. Zerglings, when they get adrenal glands, they get a 40% attack speed improvement. That's so much. Serral does need a bunch of them, though. 266 Lings have gone down, 52 Stalkers. 11-minute game. Okay. In the meantime, by the way, there's no mining at the third. Probes are heading on back. Main base is going to be running low. This is actually more effective, though, than I thought it was going to be. Nah, Adrenal Glands is done. This is over. There's no way you're going to be able to defend against Adrenal Glands. Suddenly, those Zerglings are hitting so hard. Surprisingly effective, though. Yeah, if you do this against, well, me, I will die 100% of the time. Oh. Keep in mind, he's doing this off of 2 base economy. He hasn't made a probe in a long time. I'm actually thinking if those Banelings did not do enough damage, if those Banelings got denied, Hero may have actually pulled a rabbit out of a hat here. Yeah, this is a full Diamond League strategy right here from Hero. Obviously executed very well, but it's just strategically a bit blunt, you know? Not always, I guess, do you need an elegant approach. You don't need a very sophisticated strategy every single time, but this is Caveman Protoss style right over here. This is the Ooga Booga strat. Me make Stalker, me hit opponent. I mean, it's not over yet. It's just that I don't think he can counter Lings. Yeah, GG. GG. And that means that it all comes down to this. Ley Lines, final map in this best of 3 series. You know, thinking about it a little bit more, yeah, it's an Ooga Booga strategy from Hero. But I don't mind it that much because most players, when they go up against Serral, they play like they're very intimidated, right? Like they go up against Serral and suddenly they start playing these highly sophisticated games. And it's very clear to me that Hero is not impressed. Hero is not afraid to play full Ooga Booga if he needs to. Me have Stalker, me hit face, right? Like that's all he needs to do. And even though it didn't work, I feel like nobody has really treated Serral that way. Like, everybody always seems to approach Serral like they're walking on very thin ice. Practicing very deliberate and specific strategies. for, well, sometimes even weeks on end, just for like one series that they know they're going to be playing against him. Not so much hero. I'm pretty sure he just started off that game. He's like, Stalker. Perfect. It's a great strategy. Just didn't work. All right, now we find ourselves on Ley Lines. I think you go back to game number 1 builds. I think that's what we're going to have to go ahead and do. Pylon in the wall off again, indicating he wants to go for like a 340-ish third Nexus. Cybercore should go down right now, though, at 20 supply. It's a 20 supply Nexus, 20 supply Cybercore. You cut a probe. Probe production can resume in the main base. You should see a Pylon, a second Gas Geyser, a Stargate. The whole shebang. In the meantime, for Serral, he did go for the nice and quick Gas Geyser again. We have seen some Zerg players, especially against Terran, trying to delay the extractor a little bit. You can sort of do that too against Protoss, but we'll probably just see a third Nexus here. A Zerg Nexus, that is, at a reasonable time. He's gonna go for the safety Zergling speed in case it's like a quick Adept, even though it was a Stalker built in game number 1 and he went for, well, Stalker into Adept, not Adept into Adept. This time around, it is going to be Adept, maybe into Stalker. It's these are the sort of things that I say that make sense in my head. I don't know if they make a lot of sense if you're watching, unless you're paying very close attention. But anyways, it's the type of stuff, basically what it comes down to is hero, and MaxPax does this too. The top level Protoss players make very minute adjustments from game to game, where if you look at the match, right, and you kind of have me up on your second monitor or whatever, or like you're kind of like following along with distance, it looks like he's playing the same build every single time, but he's not. The build is ever so slightly different, and it's forcing Zerg to stay honest. In the past, we've seen Protoss play very predictable playstyles, and Zergs will just start countering it. They will just delay link speed, just go full drone. They will just do everything in their power to play the most abusive strategy possible. And the way that Hero approaches these games is he's mixing it up every single time. It's just small adjustments here, small adjustments there. And now he's going Oracle first. He went Void Ray first in the previous game. He may still follow this up with a Void Ray. Wouldn't be too surprising. But it's these little adjustments that's forcing Zerg to still go for a reasonably tight extra Queen. Maybe even a Spore Crawler for safety, right? Like, you need to make everything still, because you can't possibly tell exactly what Protoss is up to inside of their main base. Like, after the fact, right? After he's seen the units, he can make decisions about things that he should have done differently. But that's not how life works. You can't live life in reverse. Gotta make sure you make decisions in the current moment. And yeah, if Serral knew exactly what he was going up against, he would be able to counter it. But because there's so much variety, he can't possibly know which version of Protoss it's going to be, because to him, and maybe if you're watching this game casually too, everything looks pretty much identical. All he's seen so far is basically the exact same strategy. Very quick third Nexus. Second Oracle is now available. This is the more conventional approach. It's triple Oracle. Spore Crawler is building here. It's now done in the natural expansion. There's one inside of the main base too. And ultimately, you end up in this situation. If you look at the work account right now, they're basically, well, Serral's starting to pull ahead right now, but they've basically been dead even for the majority of this game. So despite Hero not really dealing a critical amount of damage or whatever, this is not one of those games where Zerg is just running away with the economical advantage. We're just zapping away. Zapping away the Zerg bases. Oh, couple of free adepts. You never look a gift adept in the mouth. They have no mouths. It just occurred to me that no Protoss units has a mouth. Yeah, they have no mouths. So you definitely don't give... Yeah, no, it was only a single one, though. Not the second one. Oracle recharge ability being used. It is going to go into the +1 now, too, together with the blink. Serral is going to go for +1 melee and a much faster Bailing Nest. I don't know what the plan with the Bailing Nest is. I wonder how discouraged Serral is from playing late game, though. Like, game number 1 really was an early tap out, especially for him. Serral's known to be a fighter, and that kind of oozed desperation to me. Like, he looked at that game, he's like, I have stuff, I have things, I can make an army, but I have nothing. Like, it seemed desperate. So maybe he's got something in store for this particular game where he's gonna try and use, for example, a very quick Baneling speed. Keep in mind that Banelings with +2 melee no longer one-shot probes. That is something that got changed quite a long time ago at this point. But Ravagerling Bane was the go-to unit composition in the mid-game for a very long time until that got nerfed. Banelings don't do enough damage for that sort of thing anymore. So it's now 2 probes, or 2 Banelings rather, for 1 probe. Even with +1 or +2. Hydralis Den is coming up, so Serral's gonna go what seems to be just good old Hydraling Bane. Ah, we already have a Robo Bay. Did he see it? He must have seen the Baneling Nest? No, Hero did not. Maybe a little bit of rock, paper, scissors. Accidentally, yeah, getting the paper here against Serral's rock. Going into Colossus is gonna be phenomenal against this sort of thing. Hydraling Bane. Not a very good composition against any sort of Stalker Colossus build at all. In the meantime, though, I actually missed it. Lucky for us, Hero did not. 4 probes have gone down on the other side of the map as Serral tried to show up early with a bunch of Banelings. Without the speed upgrade. They did have +1, but again, doesn't matter in that particular engagement. Colossus immediately starts up. Serral's gone for an infestation pit, so maybe he wants to go into a hive. Go into lurkers, but that is about, well, 4 minutes away until that's really done. He's gonna have to play Hydra Ling. Colossus is gonna be so good here for Hero. Great control here so far, by the way, from Hero. Forced to micro multiple areas at once. New Colossus gets queued up on the back of the first one. Hatchery now falls up north. There was a new base, though, building over at that, that more forward position. This is one, though, that can be attacked by Colossi as well. They can actually shoot from the low ground up towards the high ground. Extended thermal lens coming up. So Colossi deal bonus damage against light units. Hydras and Zerglings are both light. They also just don't have a lot of HP in general, so even if they weren't light, that would still be a pretty decent choice. The real answer here for Serral would be a Viper or 2. If he can get a Viper out to abduct the Colossi, that would be amazing for him. Hive is coming. It's about halfway done at this point. In order to go for a Viper, he just needs a Hive. No Spire, no nothing required. Just the Hive. Stasis wards are being set up. Serral trying to see if he could snipe a potential 4th base, but there is none. This is effectively, again, a bit of an Ooga Booga threat right here from Hero. Effectively a 3-base all-in. It seems unnecessary. Serral hates the Colossus. Decides to just snipe the Robo facility itself. May very well give up on another hatchery because of it, though. I think Hero's original plan wasn't to go for a push here, but when he recognized this was a Hydraling Bane stall, he's thinking, yo, I already have the Robo facility. I will try and see if I can just obtain the victory now. Vipers are coming. Keep in mind that they don't just need to spawn, they also need to accumulate energy. And then they also need to find the right angle, because obviously Stalkers can still shoot those units out of the sky. Aggressive blink forward. Hero is destroying Serral. I don't think Serral has ever been destroyed over the last 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I don't know. I'd like to think that Serral, when he first installed StarCraft 2, got put straight into Grandmaster League. This was utter destruction. Hero obtains the victory with 3 very unique playstyles in 3 very unique games. So game number 2 was obviously not a win, but I think strategically it was still a brilliant match. Very, very well done right here by Hero. He wins the series 2-1.